Good Friday morning to you. This is Pastor Mark Pierce of Church Requel, and it is just wonderful to be able to continue these Bible studies with you. Welcome to my office. I'm back down in the basement today, and am looking forward to moving forward in our study of the Beatitudes. I want to thank you, though, for being a part of this. I receive emails every week from someone, and it really is a great encouragement to me to know that there are those out there to whom I am ministering, to whom I am sharing. I just got to tell you, there's no one who's learning more from this Bible study than me. So I thank you for your encouragement, and I thank you for just keeping me on top of my toes. This is not easy stuff. It really isn't. It gets right to the heart of Jesus and who he was, and Christianity and our faith. So without a whole lot more prefacing, let's go ahead and turn in our Bibles to Matthew chapter 5. And we haven't done this for a while. So we're going to focus on our next beatitude in verse 7. But just to put it all into context, let's begin with Matthew chapter 5 and start in verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. That's what we want to focus on today. But let's read some more. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We get to this next beatitude. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. And it's, I think, very easy for us to look simply at that in isolation from all of the other beatitudes, and see this as some type of karma, I think would be the right word. I'm sure you've heard what goes around comes around. This status eventually returns to its original value after completing some kind of a cycle, so that to those who show mercy to others, mercy will be shown to them. And we have this thinking that we're really talking here about kind of the way the world works, the way that men treat one another, the way people should be. The problem is, quite frankly, as a philosophy, it doesn't work real well. Now, certainly on the one hand, I think there's a lot to be said for the fact that people who in general are merciful to others experience mercy themselves. But what we see here, I think, as a beatitude is this concept of current joy. Remember, we come back to this idea of blessedness, and it's always in the present tense. And Jesus is saying that you are going to be happy right now, for if you are merciful, you will be shown mercy. If we were simply to apply that to the reality of what we all experience, both ourselves and what we see with others, I think we'd come to the conclusion that this is a beatitude that if it is meant to apply to men and how men treat one another, well, honestly, it just doesn't work so well. We all know people who have been given great mercy by other men who absolutely did not deserve it and who had not shown much mercy to others themselves. And likewise, I think we could all point to personal examples of people to whom we know have lived a lifestyle of mercy and yet have not experienced mercy themselves. And perhaps you're in that situation. You say, I've been merciful so many times in so many situations to so many other people, and yet here I am right now, where I am at right now. I need mercy, and no one is really extending it to me. I'm feeling pretty much left out. Well, I have some words of hope for you, I think, that could maybe increase your joy and bring the blessing back in your life. This is one of those Beatitudes that, frankly, we have to look at in connection with the other Beatitudes. We make, I think, a grand mistake if we take this particular Beatitude and we separate it both from the other Beatitudes in the context of the Beatitudes as a whole, and if we separate this concept of mercy from the entire scope of mercy as we see it throughout the Bible, both in the Old and the New Testament, both in the Greek language as well as in the Aramaic and Hebrew. So today and tomorrow, maybe Monday, I'd like to explore that context with you. Today, just to really get a start to this, let's look at this in the context of the Beatitudes. First of all, we see within the Beatitudes this idea that there are 4 Beatitudes that begin, and then there are 4 Beatitudes that end. Today, as we move into the 5th Beatitude, we really are moving into the second set. Do you see this? And it doesn't take a great scholar to see that there might be some connection here between the first set of 4 and the second set of 4. Take a look in your own Bible. We get to verse 3, which is the first Beatitude. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Well, is it not too great a stretch to connect that Beatitude with the one that we're talking about today? Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Stop and think about it for a moment. Remember when we talked about the one who is poor in spirit, we're talking about the one who says, within myself, I just don't have the ability to reach God. I am not one who is rich in spirit, and so I rely upon God. Well, isn't that true when it comes to mercy? We also don't have the ability within ourselves, because we are poor in spirit, to be merciful. But when we come to the Lord and say, I am poor in spirit, and God extends the kingdom of heaven to us, and I experience joy out of that, don't I much more have the ability to both be merciful and to receive mercy? Just connect these two. Well, I'm not sure that makes sense. Well, look at some of these other Beatitudes. Verse 4, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. And connect that to the next Beatitude, which we haven't gotten to yet. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Yes? This idea of someone who is mourning for their own sin and for the sin of the world, and looking and saying, this world as it is now just isn't right the way it should be. Well, those are the ones who are pure in heart, who have the right intention, and they are the ones who want to see God. Blessed are those who are meek, who have power under control. Well, doesn't it take a great deal of power under control to be a peacemaker, which we see in verse 9? And, of course, the last Beatitude that we just finished studying. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Well, isn't it those who hunger and thirst for righteousness? Aren't they the one who are even so willing to go beyond and actually be persecuted for their seeking that righteousness, for righteousness' sake? You see, I think that there is a connection here. Now, why I say that, and we'll have to cut off here quickly because we're just about out of time, but why I say that is because up until now, everything that we have been talking about in terms of that future passive received is always coming from God. So when we get to this point of they shall receive mercy, who is it that they shall receive mercy from? Is it not God? In other words, this isn't this situation of karma where if I give mercy to other men will give mercy to me. No, this is if I am merciful, God will be merciful to me. And in that, there is great joy. Hey, hang in there with me. I'm going to explore this a little bit more tomorrow morning on Saturday. Thanks for joining me on this Friday, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.